Welcome back. In today's demonstration, we are going to be learning how to throw a bowl in Ceramics 1. You'll notice that it's a different assignment. It's an open formed shape, so please make sure you watch the discussion video, and then we'll get started on throwing the bowl. So first of all, you're going to center. I've patted my clay down. I'm going to seal it to the wheel head and cone. Compress. Now, as you're making your bowl, whereas we've been making cylinders before, we wanted to have a little bit taller centered shape. Whereas with the bowl, you want to start with a little bit wider compression shape. So don't be afraid to, as you're centering your clay, let the clay fold out a little bit more into a larger shape. Because we're going to be making an open shape, we want the walls, like the main supporting wall of the bowl, to be out just a bit farther. Okay. So here's my finished centering. All right. Now, instead of opening and making a little hook with your finger and pulling, we're going to open and gently create an open shape. So I'm going to slow my wheel down. One of the things about having a bowl or throwing a bowl is that the rim can quickly get out of control. So again, holding the clay centered, using my index finger and thumb to gently press down, making sure that before it gets too dry, I add some more water in, and then I'm going to press down again. Now, as we've been doing our cylinders, we've said go down all the way to about 1/4 of an inch. But for a bowl, you want to leave a little bit extra because we're going to end up cutting a foot, just like our T-bowl. Okay, so even though we made our T-bowls a little bit more vertical, we're going to make our bowls a little bit wider. Now, the goal for this is a 5-inch diameter bowl. All right, so we'll get out the ruler and make sure it's 5 inches. Okay, so here's my more open shaped opening. You can kind of see that it's more on an angle here. Now, with throwing a bowl, you're actually doing most of the pulling from the inside of the bowl. So you use your throwing sponge or your finger or your knuckle or whatever you're going to do, and you're going to press underneath your bowl, and as you press in, you're going to be pulling with your left hand the inside of the shape. Okay? Bowls are an inside shape, whereas the cylinder is an outside shape. The bowl, we're actually more concerned about the inside of it. Now I've kind of got a funky rim here, so I'm just going to clean that up before we get too much farther on. I'm going to compress that together so it doesn't get too out of control. There we go. Now, continuing on with that pull. Okay, pressing underneath and pulling my fingers on the inside to make a more open shape. Now, this is just the start. I've got that open shape. I'm going to compress the rim so it doesn't get out of control. And now we're going to go back for our next pull. The next pull, I'm going to press in a lot and get the foot kind of established. And you can see how as I press underneath, I'm pulling out with my fingers that are on the inside of my left hand. And I'm going to kind of pull almost into a vertical shape here on the outside. But what I'm thinking more about is the inside. What does the inside of that bowl look like? And I want to think about the inside shape. A bowl is about presenting what's on the inside, not necessarily about the outside. The outside is going to be faced down for the most part. Of course, there are bowls that you want both the inside and the outside worried about. But before I go on too much further, I'm just going to make sure I clean up this wheel head so that you can see what's going on. And that's about what the bowl looks like on the outside so far. Now, continuing the inside, you'll notice that I have not compressed the inside of the bowl. I'm going to leave that till after my third pull, which is right now. I'm going to press back underneath, stabilizing the clay with my left hand, pulling with my inside fingers till I reach the outside. And now I'm pulling up. Now, the trick about a bowl is the outside is going to be a lot thicker than you would make with a cylinder, because again, we're going to be trimming the foot. So we want to leave a little bit of material there to trim away. Now, I've gotten my third pull. I'm going to take my fingers and just compress the inside to eliminate the chance of S cracking later in the kiln. So I'm going to compress just like we would when we did our cylinders. Okay, but what I'm doing is I'm also kind of thinking about what the bottom of my bowl is going to look like and how I want that inside to be rounded. Okay, now I'm going to continue with another pull. I'm going to press that foot area in, pull the clay out with my inside hand, and then gently pull the wall once I get that clay up and out of the foot. Now, a lot of bowls, because the rim is so wide, the rims have a tendency to be a little bit more fragile and cracked. So I like to try to compress my rim and make the rim just a little bit thicker so that it's a little bit more on the sturdy side. Some people like to flare out their rims. I mean, there's a million different options of what you can do with your rim, but I like to kind of have it thicker. Now, I've pulled it 4 times. I'm going to pull one more time here because I want to get this clay that's in here underneath to about where I want it to be. Now I'm going to pull the clay one last time, really thinking about the inside shape, and notice how slow my wheel is going. And I'm going to leave just a little bit up there at the rim so we have a nice solid rim. Okay, so last step here, I'm going to make sure there's no water inside, and then I'm going to use my rib on the inside to kind of clean this up. Just clean the shape up while I support it with my outside hand. Okay, that's also compressing the platelets. And now, if you like a smooth bowl on the inside, you can do a smooth bowl. I like to see the finger ridges because I feel like that's kind of a handmade piece. So I like to put the finger ridge in there. Compress the rim one more time. And notice how slow I've got my wheel going at this point, because you don't want the rim to get out of control and you want it to be even. Now, that's kind of the finished bowl. Notice the inside shape and the outside shape. I'm going to measure it just to make sure it's 5 inches. Oh yeah, good, it's 6.5 inches. So yours should be at least this big. I mean, it should be, doesn't have to be this big, it should be 5 inches. Last step here, mouse eats the cheese. Let's get that little chunk out from underneath. Now, for lifting a bowl, I'm going to take my water on the one side, slide my wire underneath so that the water cuts underneath the bowl. I'm going to do it twice and actually pull that bowl a little bit as I go. Then I'm going to dry my hands off. I'm going to wrap my thumb and fingers on one side and cup the other side. As I lift it off, I'm going to just twist a little bit so it doesn't stick. And then I'm going to move that over onto my board that's ready. Okay, now that is our finished bowl. Here's one that I made beforehand to show as the example before the video started. But again, remember, we're opening the form, so it's an open shape. You want to think about more about the inside rather than the underneath side. The underneath side is important too, but of course leave a little bit of clay down here for the trimming of your foot. And that is how to throw an open form bowl for Ceramics 1.